Syracuse Orange went below 500 this past season. They'll be looking to improve with Coach Dino Babers and a lot of good talent on the field. Can they do that? Let's go. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Christian Ballard, Ballard Sports Media, coming at you with a Syracuse football preview video brought to you by the second part of the 10-hour live stream. And in case you're wondering, yes, I did crash last night. So, looking at Syracuse last year, below 500 team, 5-7, 2-6 in ACC play. Let's take a look at their schedule and what went wrong. They have been known to lose players through the portal. I think they lost Tommy DeVito, their quarterback, a couple of years ago. And they can lose some players to the draft every once in a while. I think losing some talent kind of held them back. They were a game or two away. They had some close calls. But here's what they had last year. They won at Ohio. They lost to Rutgers by 10 points. That's one of those games that got away that maybe you would want back. University of Albany, they won big time 62-24. They won against Liberty. They lost to Florida State. They lost to Wake. They lost to Clemson. They beat Virginia Tech and Boston College. Then they lost their last three games pretty much in blowout fashion. Louisville, NC State, and Pitt, which they lost 31-14. So when I look at this, the first thing that stands out to me, if you notice, the three losses right here, Florida State, Wake, and Clemson, were all by a field goal possession, right? And Rutgers was only by 10 points, right? You don't really see much blowout or room for error until you look at the second half of the season, right? So that tells me this is a team that can win some football games, that can play, that can compete, right? So you look at it, they just need to find a way to handle the close games. Just win the close games. That's all I can say. So again, 5-7, 2-6 in the ACC. Got to get that record up this year. They lost their last three games. No bowl because they were below 500. So therefore, Syracuse was unable to make a bowl trip. They were one of the lower tier teams this year in the ACC, and they'll be looking to improve off that this year in 2022. So with that being said, let's take a look at 2022 and what they could potentially face, which I will tell you, it's not an easy task. All right. So you open up at home in Syracuse, New York with Louisville, who I expect to be a pretty good team who's doing really, really good in 2023 recruiting right now. You go play Uconn, play Purdue, Virginia, Wagner Seahawks. I'm not even sure where Wagner is. Get a bye week, and you play teams like NC State, at Clemson, Notre Dame, at Pitt, Florida State, at Wake, and at Boston College. So I think it's a good start for the season. Not a good finish. Not a good look. Really, the only room for error I could see in the start of the season is probably Louisville, who is doing really, really good in recruiting right now in 2023. I think they got a top 10, top 15 class. And then Purdue, who had a pretty interesting 8-4 campaign last year, who's one of the more underrated, in my opinion, underrated teams in the Big Ten. And a Big Ten opponent for Syracuse could be uh, something tricky. So when you look at this, you open up at home. I think you get off to a good start the first couple weeks. UConn is a women's basketball school. That's it. They're not even really that good in, well, they're kind of good in men's basketball. They're not too good in football. Any trap games on here, any possible upset. They have played Clemson pretty close in recent history. Even at Clemson, they gave them a scare a couple years ago when I think Trevor Lawrence was the quarterback, or maybe it was Kelly Bryant still. But at Pitt is, even without Kenny Pickett, they still should be one of the key teams in the Coastal to look out for. Florida State, I expect improvement. I expect a lot of improvement in the ACC this year. NC State, Wake Forest, who brings back Sam Hartman. This is tough to call. I think the obvious here, Wagner State or Wagner Seahawks, that's a win. Okay. At Uconn, I'm going to give you a win there, but that's not a guarantee. Uconn's not a nobody. It's not like that. So, I think at lowest, 5 wins. At most, maybe 7 wins. Somewhere in that range. I just think a lot of these teams are better. I think Louisville's better. But I'm actually going to give you a win week 1 right out the gate. I think it's going to be a packed house. I think it's going to be a loud crowd. I think Louisville could play it close. That's an 8 p.m. game on Saturday, September 3rd. It's tough to call. I like Louisville's recruiting, but I think it's going to take a little time for Satterfield to get it on the field in the way he needs to build it up. So, but Louisville, Uconn, I think the obvious losses, I'm going to give you a loss to Purdue. I'm going to say you beat teams like Louisville and Uconn. So you go 2-0 going into the Purdue game. That's where you take your first loss. I think you could handle Virginia and Wagner at home. You get a bye week, which I think is good timing because you have a very tough stretch and a lot to ask for right now in this point of the season. NC State, at Clemson, Notre Dame, Florida State, and Pitt, and Wake, and Boston College. These are going to be some tough games. I think Syracuse is good enough to get bowl eligible, right, and take a very tiny, small step forward this year. They went 5-7. I'm going to throw it up and say maybe you go 6-6 this year. That's my personal opinion and prediction. The losses, I've kind of called them out already. Like, if you lose to a team like Wagner, which, by the way, why that's your homecoming game is beyond me. I would put the homecoming game on Virginia or something, make it a in-conference opponent. But anyway, if you lose to Wagner, that's not a good look. NC State couldn't be a bad loss. I expect NC State, honestly, to take a small step forward. Dave O'Doran is a pretty good head coach, has had some good players there in the past couple of years, like Ryan Finley at quarterback or whoever. Ikemi Kwanu, who they lost to the NFL draft, a top offensive tackle. Clemson. The thing about Clemson, you play them on the road, and I know Syracuse has played close games there in recent years. Clemson's supposed to be back this year, and that's not just me talking. That's the whole college football landscape, the media. So I'm going to say 6-6, and I'm going to say your losses are Purdue, Clemson, Pitt, Notre Dame, Wake, and Boston College. The thing about these teams, I just think they're the better team in these games. I think Purdue in the Big Ten is a bit too much. That could be an upset. And if it is, that should be momentum to go beat teams like Virginia, Wagner, the next week. Could you play Clemson close? Yeah. Could you play Notre Dame close? Yeah. You're lucky you get Notre Dame at home. If it were on the road, I'd say that's a big blowout. And I don't say you're lucky you're at home. I don't mean that in a negative way. I just think that it would be even tougher on you if all of these games were on the road, especially Notre Dame and South Bend. So I'm going to say 6-6, going Purdue, Clemson, Pitt, Notre Dame, Wake, and Boston College as your 6 losses. You still get to go bowling. You're 1 win extra than you were last year at 5-7. So I think a bowl appearance. Now, depending on who you face, that could be something, and that could be, tricky because, well, I don't know. Pick any group of 5 team. I don't know. BYU, right? If you face BYU, is that a must win for Syracuse? Like, oh, we don't need to get embarrassed or whatever by losing to BYU. I don't know. Depending on who you face in your bowl game, I'll tell you if they win or not. But at least for my prediction, I say 6 losses, split it half and half, and go 6-6. Still bowl eligible, and I think you should take it as it is. So anyway, I love you guys. Jesus loves you. Let me know what you think about Syracuse down in the comments below. I'm going to get back to this 10-hour stream. And I love you guys so much. Please like, comment, and subscribe right here to Ballard Sports Media for more sports content. And until next time, folks, Ballard Sports Media. Check it out. Love y'all. Peace.